Hey, everybody, it's Fred Diamond. Happy holidays to you all. Have a special opportunity here. I'm repurposing a show from my other podcast. I run a podcast called the Sales Game Changers Podcast. It's the award winning show. We've had it close to 700 shows. I typically interview sales leaders around the globe about how they're leading teams and how they're working with great customers. I've done about a dozen or so episodes with people who have overcome Lyme disease to have a successful career in sales. So I'm repurposing one of the shows that I did with a woman named Lauren Bailey. Lauren runs the Girls Club. She also is a world-renowned sales trainer and speaker. We met her through an organization called Women's Sales Pros that features women who speak about sales, authors, consultants, trainers, etc. So I interviewed Lauren back in 2022. It was a great show. She talked about her challenges with Lyme disease, more importantly, how she overcame them to have a very, very successful career as a sales authority, trainer, and speaker. I want to remind everybody my book is available on Amazon. The e-version of the book, the PDF, is always free for Lyme survivors. Reach out to me via Facebook or LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to get a copy to you. Once again, please enjoy today's show with Lauren Bailey. All right. Thank you so much. Welcome to another episode of Sales Game Changers Live. My name is Fred Diamond. Of course, I'm the co-founder of the Institute for Excellence in Sales and the host and the producer of Lauren. We do 4 Sales Game Changer virtual learning sessions every week. Of course, Tuesday is our Women in Sales show with Gina Stracuzzi. Every Wednesday, I interview sales leaders around the globe about how they're working with their teams and how they're interacting with customers. Every Thursday is our Optimal Sales Mindset show. And every Friday is our Creativity in Sales. We talk about sales tactics, things you could do to take your sales career to the next level. We transcribe every show we do, Lauren. Every show, we're over 500 shows now. Episode number 500 is going to be posted in a couple of weeks. You can read every transcription, including today. Go to salesgamechangerspodcast.com, salesgamechangerspodcast.com/Lauren Bailey to read today's transcription. Well, Lauren, it's great to see you. You're, of course, the co-founder of Factor 8. You've also been very involved with the Girls Club, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You know, you came highly recommended to be on today's show from a lot of our past guests who you know through Women's Sales Pros. But for people who are listening today, they also know that one of my main causes at the Institute for Excellence in Sales and Sales Game Changers is making more people aware of Lyme disease, chronic Lyme disease. And we've done a couple of shows. We've done actually close to half a dozen shows where I've brought together the convergence of Lyme disease and sales excellence, which no one else on the planet is doing. But as a lot of people know who've been listening, Lyme disease has affected my personal life, and I want to get more awareness to it. And you have Lyme disease, you've been public about it, but you're also a great sales professional, sales leader. So we're going to be talking about getting past blocks, getting past obstacles, and having chronic Lyme disease is a huge one. And I applaud you for all the success that you've had battling this, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. First of all, you look great. Do you feel good? Do you feel healthy today?
Wow, it's so funny to actually talk about this out loud. I talk a lot about sales or women in sales or sales leadership or entrepreneurship, but this is the very first time that somebody's going to ask me questions about Lyme disease. So I've got my tissues ready. This could be a shit show, my friend. We will see what happens next. I am moderately healthy right now. I usually talk about my health in terms of a stoplight pattern, right? A green, a yellow, and a red. And I'm coming off orange and into the yellow. And what that means specifically for me right now is that I have a little bit of trouble walking and gripping due to arthritis. I'll have some pretty spectacular headaches to go with that, and some very, very low energy. I am coming out of a place where I call it counting steps, and not in the good way where I'm trying to get steps, but in a way of I will multitask to the level that I will hold having to go to the bathroom until I also have to get up and can get 3 other things at the same time, because I get about 1,000 steps on days like today until I just completely pass out.
So for people who don't know, Lyme disease, it's a tick-borne illness. Typically, you get it from a tick, and one of the causes things like you said, fatigue, joint pain, anxiety, stress, constant pain. So I just want to ask you a question. I mean, you're a sales professional. Most people who have Lyme, it's difficult to get out of bed, let alone work a job. And I've gotten to become friends with a lot of people who have Lyme disease, and maybe they're working from home if they're able to work, or maybe they'll do copy editing, very soft type jobs. But you're in
Right.
sales, and as we all know, everyone who's listening today, and anyone who's listening to this podcast in the future, we all know what sales is about, especially performing at a high level. So how do you do it? Lauren Bailey, how do you perform as a sales professional and also running the business when you have Lyme disease?
Yeah, I think that it's wonderful perspective to hear that. Thank you, because there's plenty of times where I feel guilty that I'm not
Mm.
doing enough, or I have to, sorry kids, nope, I don't get to go and do that, right? I'm not healthy enough to ski with you on this vacation, and they're too young to understand that mom's not just lazy. Ah, so how do you listen? I've had times where I've been in bed. I've had times where I was out of work. I've had times where I was in a wheelchair, and I'm considered pretty high functioning now for somebody with Lyme disease. And I think, frankly, that um, being driven at work is helpful to that, because I believe in an energetic world, and we attract what we put out there. And when we surround ourselves with disease and focusing on the symptoms and how shitty we feel. That's my second swear word. Sorry, I'll try to dial it back. It just brings in more, and it's really terribly easy to just stop and to go down and to stay down. And I think that being in sales and being obsessed with that, and even more starting my businesses and being obsessed with those, helps get you out of bed and doing what you need to do. And right, just like having kids helps get you out of bed and doing what you need to do. If I didn't have two businesses and two little boys, I would have logged many, many more hours with my pillow for sure. And let me tell you something, I've taken business meetings from bed. It's absolutely happened. So I feel like that was a long rambling answer. Sorry about that. Thank you for the credit though. That feels good.
No, actually, I mean, once again, if it's a, I have someone in my life who has Lyme disease, and I really dug deep about 9 months ago, 10 months ago, to understand the challenges that people face. And it's like I was kind of joking in the beginning of the show, the convergence of sales and Lyme, because uh, tell us
Who
what
talked
it's
about
like. No, the only place that you're going to hear about the convergence of sales and Lyme, ladies and gentlemen, is on the Sales Game Changers podcast with Lauren
that?
Bailey and Fred Diamond today. No, but seriously, but talk a little bit, if you don't mind, on what it's like to, you mentioned a little bit, but how do you pace yourself, right? Because one thing we're going to talk about is the blocks. And in sales, you're always going to have blocks. I was joking with one of our guests the other day, you have 20 no, 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 no till you get to that yes, right? And then that yes is amazing, but a lot of them are artificial. They're in your head when you don't have, a
Yeah.
physical disease that's blocking you, but you literally have a physical disease. So talk about how that shows up during the day, and then we'll get to how you combat it. And again, we're going to be addressing just your advice on helping salespeople get through the blocks that they may be covering, which aren't based on, true disease.
Yeah. So what are some of the blocks that are happening during the day? That's the question, right?
Yes.
Um, well, listen, I mean, from which side of the street, right? We all have blocks in sales. And I would say that 50% of our blocks are actual and the other 50% are mental, right? Oh, I don't need to call them back. Oh, they don't need to hear from me. Oh, right? And whoo, I think Lyme probably makes those worse. I have 50% of the blocks that are mental as well, not just physical, right? Oh, I probably can't help them. Oh, they don't need to hear from me. I'm not good enough. There's a lot of that that happens. The funniest thing happening on the side. My kids are home from spring break. My dog decided to come in and do this podcast with me, right? And
Yes.
so my kids have finally learned, don't open the door if mommy's working and the door is closed. So they slid a note under the door. My dog just ate it.
Very good.
Never
So
happened before. I'm sorry, I'm just cracking up. Oh, that's great. Hopefully it's not a big emergency. They understand that it's not an emergency unless there's police, a protruding bone, or blood.
we actually had a show last week with a liner from Chili Piper where her son in the middle of the show brought in flowers for his mother. It was she's Romanian, so it was Mother's Day in Romania. But again, how does it show up throughout the course of the day? How does the Lyme disease show up? Like, does it show for people who don't understand
Mm,
Lyme disease? And one thing we mentioned in the very beginning, everybody knows cancer, right? Everybody knows when
yeah,
someone has cancer.
mm,
Everybody knows when
yeah.
someone's in a cast or, whatever, but it's an
Oh,
invisible disease. So how does it
it's
show
an
up for you?
invisible disease. It really is. My mentor, who's amazing, his name's Bruce Myhawk, and he was telling me his journey with cancer and how he beat cancer. And he knew something was wrong because when he was on his 5 mile run, he just didn't have as much energy. And then when he was going through chemo, he could only do 2 or 3 miles a day. And I had to leave the room and cry because I was like, oh, like, you're amazing, but I don't feel sorry for you. You know, the last, my dog's choking on the note now. The last time I got to run was decades ago.
Mm.
And I used to run. I used to teach aerobics. I used to dance. I used to do a lot of things. And it's just not possible anymore. So I want you to imagine the most tired you've ever been in your entire life.
Mm.
And, for some women, that's pregnancy. And for some people recently, that's when they went through COVID. And I've experienced both of those as well. And both of those are about 50% what I get if I'm Lyme tired. It's a heaviness and a lethargy and impossible to move. How am I going to get up and make it to the bathroom? Kind of tired. This morning, like I said, I'm moving from an orange into a yellow, which is an improvement, but I couldn't make a fist. I had to lay in bed for my first 10 minutes, just convincing myself that I was going to be a member of society today and get my hands to work again. Um, there's times where I forget. And I met another mentor and dear friend, Sherry Leviton, in Park
Mm.
City this last weekend. You know, Sherry.
Yeah, of course.
And we were out at breakfast and having a lovely talk. And at the end, we got up to go, and I stood up, and then I had forgotten that my entire body was hurting and didn't work, and almost fell on the table next to us. And then just had to spend a few minutes getting things moving again because the arthritis was so bad that I couldn't move. So I don't think people know it or see it. And the worst part is when it gets into the brain. They're very Alzheimer-like symptoms.
Yeah.
I've been somebody who's been smart and driven and known for that, if you will, my whole life, right? Like, okay, fine. When I had to let the body go, I had to let the body go, right? And when I had to let the physicality go, I had to let that go. But when it started attacking my mental capacity, that's when it really pissed me off. But there are times where I can't get words out, and they'll get stuck, and I'll stammer, and I'll twitch, and I'll forget things. It's humiliating.
So let me ask you a question here. And we have a comment here from Liz, and Liz says, uh, thank you, Lauren, for telling us this story. And I want to acknowledge you. I mean, we'll talk about this later on, but for coming on my show and talking about this, Lyme disease is one of those diseases where, like you said, when there's a little kid on the street with cancer, everybody does. I mean, God bless those kids, but everyone has a lemonade stand, and people are raising money. Lyme disease, it is a disease that not many people know about. It doesn't show up. And one thing you all just mentioned, someone asked here, a question here from Ellen, which says, how do you treat Lyme? So we're just going to talk for a second. I mean, that's one of the problems too, because like you said, the bacteria, can infect every organ in your body, including your brain, and it shows up so many different ways. And there's not a lot of great testing for Lyme either. But I want to ask you a question. So you have Lyme and you're very successful, right? So Factor
Yes.
8, you co-founded Girls Club. So let's talk about that. One of the,
Mind if I correct you for a second?
sure.
I founded them both by myself, just to be clear. I'm
Okay,
not
good.
the co-founder. These are my
Oh,
babies.
good for you. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. I'm sorry I had to be rude about it, but like I'm just sitting for a moment and like, you know what? I did do that. And I did do it while I had a disease. God damn it, that's pretty fantastic. So I'm just going to own it for the rest of this podcast together.
So let's talk about that. So again, my apologies, but yeah, congratulations. So I'm the co-founder of the Institute for Excellence in Sales. So I have it written here in the notes, founder of Factor 8. So I always think co-founder, but good for you. So,
I
but no,
know,
but
right?
seriously, but here you are right now, and you have this disease. And I hope everybody listening, go research. There's plenty of things out there to get into more detail about the insidiousness of Lyme. But here you are, having created these, successful companies. A lot of people know you, and I'll ask people. I'm looking for I'm looking for salespeople, sales leaders who have battled Lyme disease. Your name came up from 3 people who we're associated with, and said you got to talk to Lauren. And so here, so let's get to right now. How have you been successful and battling this disease?
Help.
Hmm.
I think that's the honest answer. Yeah, I think it's an answer no matter what. And I love that your audience has sales. And if there's people out there that are, have Lyme in this, spend your money getting help. I have an assistant at home and at work, and I don't operate without them. I also have the best partner in the world in my husband, because there are times where I'm completely dark, man. I call Kate at work and I say, move everything out a week because I'm in a bad way and I'm not going to make it. And I call Thomasina at home and I say, all right, you're on dinner prep for the week because I'm out. It's not going to go well here. I'm in trouble. Right. And I call my husband in and say, it looks like I'm not going to make it out of bed today. I need you to, right? Have you got drop off and pick up, and what can't you cover? And that's just the reality of it. And I think we isolate ourselves sometimes. And part of the reason for that, Fred, is that we've been told for decades that we're crazy.
Hmm.
There's something very wrong with us that is invisible, and we don't have a race or a run or a bracelet or a foundation. And I think one of the big reasons for that is that we're an expensive disease. For years, they were treating this with IV level antibiotics, and medicine goes where the pharmaceutical companies decide it goes. And there were many, many years where I wouldn't tell people I had Lyme disease, and I wouldn't give out the name of my doctor because I had to go underground to get treatment.
Yeah.
I had to fly to another city to find a doctor who would anonymously treat me and other patients from around the country to get there. So how am I successful with Lyme disease? I ask for help and I give myself breaks when I need it. And I arrange my business to be a lifestyle business so that I can have a life and be a mom and do those other things. I think you have to throw away everybody else's ruler, and you have to listen to yourself and take care of yourself. And that's not always easy to do.
No, so I want to talk about the general blocks that salespeople face. So we're doing today's interview. We're doing it in March of 2022, ladies and gentlemen. So it's insane that the pandemic has gone on for 2 years, and hopefully it's coming down. But at some level, we're both doing. I'm doing well. Obviously, you have your dog and your kids there, so we're both doing today's interview at our respective homes. And people aren't necessarily back to the office as quickly as they thought, and everybody, Lauren Bailey, everybody has had to deal with things over the last 2 years. Every single person on the planet, even today, there's a war going on. There's still the things that have fallen out from the pandemic as well. So let's shift the conversation to overcoming blocks that salespeople every day. So what are the best sales professionals? What are they doing right now for high level of success? And what are some of the elite sales leaders doing? What do you see them doing right now?
I think it's one and the same conversation. I think to me, it's about alignment.
Hmm.
And it's aligning with your purpose and the higher good. And let me rephrase that so I sound a little bit less insane. I can get up. The last time I was selling deals was when I was finding Girls Club sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
So right in the last few years. Otherwise, I help sell deals, but now I've got a sales team that works for me. And God, the days I would get up and say, today I'm going to sell some sponsorships, those were okay days. But the days I woke up instead and said, today I'm going to help inspire people. Today I'm going to help teach people. Today I'm going to help this universe in these specific ways. Those are days where I really achieved, and people could see the difference. So I think it's finding your why and how you're helping your community, and sitting in that for a couple minutes and aligning with that, and kind of, right, you get that energy right and you get that mind frame right, and then you reach out to do the world a favor and bring them what you can bring them. If we go into every call, assuming if you're a BDR or SDR and you're just starting your career, and you go into the call and you assume the goal of the call is the meeting, right, booking that meeting, and you assume that because your manager told you that that was the goal of the call, right, then you're doing it wrong. And I think if you go into the call with the goal of, I'm going to really engage somebody, or I'm going to teach somebody, or I'm going to learn something, I'm going to go in with curiosity, I'm going to connect with another human, any of the sort of higher level modus operandi that we can choose in this lifetime. And when that happens and you really get that engagement on the call, or the learning, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
then the result is a meeting, right? When I went out to inspire people with a message of what Girls Club is about,
Yeah.
it resulted in partnerships and sponsorships. When I went out to close deals, it didn't.
Lauren,
And
that is a fabulous answer. You know, it's interesting why, knowing your why, it's coming up on every show now. Every single, and we do 4 podcasts a week as virtual learning sessions. It comes up all the time. As a matter of fact, it comes up so often that on my Facebook feed, Simon Sinek comes up every other advertisement. He, of course, wrote Know Your Why. I'll put you on the spot here. So again, you've created Factor 8, you've created Girls Club. What is your why? And explain, before you answer your why, Lauren Bailey, explain what it is, how do you feel it, and why is it so critical? Why did you bring it up 18 minutes into this conversation about how important it is?
Yeah. Because I brought it up, I'm going to go in reverse order, Fred. I brought it up because I have the most Lyme flare-ups and the most symptoms when I'm out of alignment. And because I go right into the seeing the blocks and seeing the nose and feeling the pain, which comes then with depression that comes to, and then I spiral downward in a pity spiral and a woe's me spiral. And I don't achieve anything when I'm there. And frankly, if I take my eye off the ball for too long, it's easy to get there. So I've got to focus on trying to like raise that awareness and align with my why. It's woo-woo language, but it's about raising your energy level, right? When you surround yourself, you and I were talking before the show that I quit even researching about Lyme disease because I surround myself with people who are sick and diseased and desperate, and I absolutely feel for all my brothers and sisters who are there, but I can't live with you all. I cannot stay there, and I cannot lower my resonance or vibration, if you will, my energy to that. So instead, I spend my mornings listening to somebody like Simon Sinek or Brene Brown or Oprah Winfrey or Abraham Hicks, or somebody who raises my vibration. Paula White would say she does it with music.
Yeah.
And it's like an exercise, right? So I don't get to exercise my quads anymore. They do not look good, but I have to exercise my spirit and my emotions to align with that. That's why I brought it up, because we're talking about, am I flying high today or am I sinking low? And when I fly high, it helps me achieve in overcoming disease, and it helps me achieve in overcoming obstacles of any kind, including sales rejection.
Yeah.
Now, here's your thread through. Sales rejection is beautiful. And it's only beautiful if we embrace it, okay? I think if we don't talk about failure and rejection and fear and all that stuff that stops us, then we don't normalize it, right? If I don't know that everybody else in the world is getting rejected 9 out of 10 calls, and if I don't know that other people are struggling with name it, right? Then I think I'm alone in that.
Yeah.
And what happens when you're alone with that is that you internalize that stuff, don't you? And it turns into shame. And like we just talked about, those pity spirals. That's a shame spiral. And there's nothing worse in the world. So in my mission in life is to help people grow confidence, right? I want everybody in the world to feel successful at work. When we feel confident and successful, we achieve. When we feel confident and successful at work, it makes all of our lives better. And talking about fears and failures and F-ups, the 3 Fs, is one of our secret sauces in Girls Club. We're a group of super high performing sales women trying to earn, right? Our job is to help them earn management and leadership positions very, very, very quickly. And part of our secret sauce is confidence building. And we do that by talking and normalizing fears, failures, and F-ups. It's okay. It happens to all of us. And I think as leaders, we've got to talk about it more. We've got to celebrate the hang-ups and the rejections and the mess-ups because they're part of the process. And it is for all of us.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that come to mind with your great answer. One is a lot of people say that they're most successful in sales when they're not selling, right? It's like when they can put themselves in the position of being of service or of helping or just engaging in conversations. We had a guest on recently, Lauren Bailey, who was a world-class improv actor. And one of his early coaches was Tina Fey from Saturday Night Live. And Tina, when this guy was starting out, Tina said to him, "Stop being funny." He said he became funny when he stopped being funny. As compared to, it's the same analogy with, oh God, I got to make 20 phone calls today and I got to prepare myself for rejection for hopefully the one thing that's going to help. Lauren Bailey, what are sales reps doing wrong today? Again, you work with a lot of sales professionals. What do you keep seeing them do wrong?
They keep selling at me, right? I mean, we have been, oh my God, the spam and the robo-dials and the just strangers selling at me. It's a pity. I think we've over automated sales, right? So that's on us leaders over reps. And it makes me very sad because we're teaching young people to hate sales. That right? They come in and they get their playbook and they get their login and they get their product training and right. And then they robo dial and are just right. As soon as you pick up the phone, they're pitching at you. So that's what we're doing wrong. Anybody and everybody listening to this, stop pitching at people and start talking to people and getting to know them and asking questions and being curious. And I mean, sales is the best MBA in the world. If you just go out and talk to all these different people about their drivers and the trends and their challenges and business, it's an incredible opportunity to learn. And instead, we could replace most of it with an outgoing voicemail message.
So, I've never asked this question before, but I'm going to ask it. And by the way, you can read today's transcription. Go to salesgamechangerspodcast.com/Lauren Bailey. And before I ask you for your final action step, I'm going to ask you a question which I've never asked before. And I'm asking this question because of how you described Girls Club before. What advice would you give a younger Lauren Bailey to be successful in Lyme? And actually, I'm going to add a little twist because of your having Lyme disease, as we discussed. Similar question. I'm not going to put a time frame on when you would ask that question. You could pick the time frame yourself, but maybe someone who is maybe junior in your career, perhaps, or when you were at that stage. How would you advise the Lauren Bailey to be more successful as a professional and more successful dealing with Lyme disease as a professional?
Yeah, right. I think what I needed back then was more confidence. And I was a desperately underconfident young girl when I was bitten by the tick in 7th grade. And I think that if I'd spent a little bit more time caring for myself and and growing my own self-worth and sense of self-worth, that I would have an easier time getting what I was put on this earth to do done sooner and better, and taking care of myself and not doubting myself, right? When doctors tell you you're nuts, and it does something to young people. It certainly does. And so I think I spent so many years trying to prove myself instead of trying to be myself. And that's time wasted.
Wow. So a couple comments coming in here. We have something from Nellie. Nellie says, thank you, Lauren, for your bravery. We have a comment here from Erica, says, thank you, Fred, for bringing Lauren on the show. I want to thank everybody who listened today. And Lauren, I want to applaud you again. Like you said, this is the first time you've spoken in this forum about Lyme disease. Everything you said was so honest and brave. And I just want to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you for talking about this challenging topic. I want to acknowledge you for your success. Once again, I'm on a couple of these Facebook groups and people will say, what do you do for a living? And people will say, I haven't been out of bed in a month, or I work an hour a day doing stitching or something, or I do customer service. You're freaking leading, a sales organization, helping your customers get better. You've created Girls Club. When I reached out to some of the women I know in Women's Sales Pros about, do you know anybody with Lyme? They all said, oh, you got to get Lauren. And I've known, you and I have been connected via LinkedIn for a couple of years, but I don't think we've ever really spoken. And I reached out to you and you had the bravery to be on the show. And, knowing what people go through with Lyme, I just want to acknowledge who you are.
And listen, I really appreciate that. I don't know if your listeners know how much acknowledgement you need at the very same time, right? Like those of us who have this, we're dealing with it because we don't really have a choice. And I think that the people who support us are the real heroes. So well done, you.
All right, thank you so much. So once again, give us your final action step. We wind down every Sales Game Changers podcast. You've given us so many great ideas, but give us one more specific action step that our listeners should do right now to take their sales career to the next level.
Go listen to your calls, right? We're going to get super tactical now. I know I was woo-woo and spiritual before, but the number one thing you can do is listen to game tape, okay? Go listen to your calls, go listen to other people's calls. And when you do so, I'd like you to get into the mind of your customer. Play the pause game, right? Play anybody's call, pause. What's the customer thinking right now? And what would you do next? Okay? The goal, remember, is engagement. Getting that customer to open up, getting that prospect to talk to you and to share their needs and their challenges so that you can help solve a potential problem. If you listen to your game tape with that in mind, I think you'll come up with 3 or 4 instant action items that you can take to take your game to the next level. And not enough people are doing it, right? If you're committed to your craft in that way, you can soar to the top and stay there.
There's so much power in that answer. One is we talk about all the time that, sales is a profession. And by the way, if you're listening to the show right now, if you've listened for the last 30 minutes, sometime in the future or today in March, I applaud you for devoting 30 minutes of your time to learn from Lauren Bailey. And, we believe that sales is a profession, and what do professionals do? They keep practicing, they prepare, they listen, they hone their craft, etc. Once again, I want to thank everybody for listening today, and I want to thank Lauren Bailey for your honesty and for the great insights you shared with us today. Thanks, Lauren.